Hook, you ever think you're finally safe in your own home, only to realize someone you trusted decided to cross the line? Imagine coming back from a short trip, expecting peace, and finding your front door kicked open. But here's the twist. She didn't know my K9, Shadow, was still inside. And what happened next? It changed the entire neighborhood forever. Stay with me, because this story isn't just about revenge. It's about justice, community, and what happens when you finally stand up to the person who's been bullying everyone for years. When I bought my little house in Pinewood Estates, I thought I'd finally found peace. The neighborhood was neat, quiet, and at least on the surface friendly. But peace didn't last long, because living 2 doors down from me was Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. If you've ever met someone who thrives on control, you'll know the type. She knew every rule, every fine, and every loophole. She'd measure people's lawns with a ruler, peek through mail slots to check for compliance, and send threatening letters if your garbage bins were visible for even an hour past pickup. She wore her HOA board president badge like it was a sheriff's star. At first, I tried to be polite. I trimmed my bushes, painted my shutters, even attended one of her endless neighborhood improvement meetings. But when she started targeting Shadow, my retired K9, things got personal. Shadow had served in Afghanistan with me. A German shepherd with a calm soul and sharp instincts. He wasn't just my dog, he was family, my partner, my lifeline through PTSD and sleepless nights. He was trained to protect and comfort, not harm. But Karen didn't care. The HOA handbook states no aggressive breeds. She'd bark across the street one afternoon, clutching her clipboard like a sword. "He's not aggressive," I replied calmly. "He's a trained service animal. And the law protects that." She sneered. "We'll see about that." From that day, she made it her mission to get rid of Shadow, and by extension, me. Complaints piled up. Dog barking too loudly. Dog off leash. Dog scaring children. Every claim was a lie. My neighbors knew it, but fear kept them quiet. Karen controlled everything: who got fined, who got favors, even whose mailbox got repaired first. It all came to a head one Friday afternoon. I had to leave town overnight for a work conference. My cousin, who usually dog-sat, got sick last minute. Shadow was fine alone for a night, plenty of food, automatic water dispenser, security system set. I locked up, checked the cameras, and hit the road. The drive was peaceful until I got a notification from my home security app, motion detected, living room. I glanced at the time. 8:47 p.m. The house was supposed to be empty. My stomach dropped. I opened the app. The feed was grainy, but there she was, Karen, standing in my living room, flashlight in hand, rummaging through my mail pile. My front door was wide open. The sight made my heart pound. She had actually broken in. I couldn't believe it. The one person who always preached about neighborhood standards had just committed a crime. Then I saw Shadow. Calm, silent, crouched behind the couch. His ears twitched, his eyes locked on her. He wasn't attacking, but he was watching. Waiting. Karen's voice echoed through the mic. "Let's see what you're hiding, you little liar," she muttered, tossing papers aside. She didn't realize my phone's microphone worked both ways. I hit the button and spoke, my voice cold and steady. "Karen, I'd stop right there if I were you." She froze, looked up at the camera, and then she laughed, actually laughed. "You're out of town, aren't you? You can't do anything about this." That's when Shadow stepped out from behind the couch. He didn't growl, he didn't need to. Just one low, steady rumble from his chest, the kind that says, "I'm giving you a chance to leave." Karen's flashlight clattered to the floor. She backed up slowly, muttering something about calling the cops, but she wasn't fast enough. Shadow moved forward not to attack, but to block her path. He herded her backward, cornering her by the doorway. And as she reached for the handle, he barked once. Loud, sharp, authoritative. That single bark echoed through the whole neighborhood and set off a chain of events no one in Pinewood Estates would ever forget. The next morning, I drove home faster than I probably should have. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. I'd spent the entire night replaying the security footage in my head. Karen breaking into my house, Shadow standing his ground like the guardian he was. I'd called the police right after it happened, but they'd told me they couldn't arrest someone unless I was there to file a report in person. By the time I turned onto my street, my chest was tight with anger and dread. Pinewood Estates looked peaceful as ever. Trimmed hedges, shiny SUVs, and kids' bikes left neatly on driveways. But I noticed something different right away. A small crowd gathered outside my house. Karen was there too, arms folded, her expression a mix of smugness and fake concern. When I parked and got out, she was already marching toward me. "Good morning, neighbor," she said with a voice dripping in sarcasm. "I had to call animal control last night. Your dangerous dog attacked me while I was performing a neighborhood inspection." I stared at her, stunned. "You broke into my house, Karen." She gasped, pretending to be offended. "Excuse me?" "I was ensuring compliance. We received reports that you were keeping illegal equipment in your home." I laughed, short, sharp, bitter. "You mean my service dog's training gear?" Her lips curled. "Whatever you want to call it. You should be grateful I didn't press charges for what that beast did." That word, beast, hit me hard. Shadow, who was sitting calmly by my side now, looked up at me like he could feel my frustration. His tail wagged once, slowly, as if reminding me to stay steady. I turned toward the group of neighbors watching. "You all saw the footage, didn't you?" I asked, raising my phone. "Because I've got it all right here." Karen's face went pale. I opened the app and projected the video onto my car's dashboard screen. Everyone leaned closer. The video showed Karen breaking in, rifling through my things, muttering insults, then Shadow appearing, calm but commanding. And finally her panicked retreat when I spoke through the speaker. The silence afterward was thick. Then, one by one, people started whispering. She really broke in. I knew she was overstepping. Didn't she fine me for having a bird bath last year? Karen tried to speak. That video's edited. You but a voice from the back cut her off. It was Mrs. Patterson, one of the oldest residents. "I've had enough of your lies, Karen," she said firmly. "You bullied everyone here for years. Now we finally see who you really are." The crowd murmured in agreement. And for the first time since I'd moved in, I didn't feel alone. The police arrived minutes later, this time with evidence in hand. They took statements from everyone. Karen tried to twist the story, claiming she'd been framed by a disgruntled homeowner. But the officers had already seen my footage. They didn't need convincing. She was handcuffed right there on my front lawn. As they walked her to the car, she kept shouting about HOA immunity and property rights. But no one believed her anymore. The power she'd clung to for years was gone. Shadow sat by my leg the whole time, calm as ever, tail thumping gently in the grass. When the police car finally drove away, I knelt down beside him, pressing my forehead to his. "You did good, buddy," I whispered. "You protected our home." He licked my hand once, like he knew. In the days that followed, something changed in Pinewood Estates. It was like the neighborhood had finally exhaled after holding its breath for too long. People who used to avoid eye contact started waving when they passed. Kids laughed outside again. The new HOA board voted in unanimously after Karen's arrest, actually listened to residents. But for me, the aftermath wasn't just about peace. It was about healing. I'd moved to Pinewood hoping to escape my own battles, the flashbacks, the sleepless nights, the ghosts of war that followed me home. Shadow had always been my anchor, my reason to get out of bed when the world felt heavy. But after Karen's torment, even my home had started to feel unsafe. That night changed all that. Because in standing up to her, I'd finally faced something deeper: my fear of confrontation, of losing control, of letting people walk all over me because I didn't want to cause trouble. The neighborhood held a small meeting a week later. I wasn't planning to speak, but when they asked for volunteers for the new HOA Community Safety Committee, something inside me nudged forward. I stood up. "I'll do it," I said. There were nods of approval. Even the people who'd been too afraid to speak up before clapped softly. Afterward, Mrs. Patterson approached me. "You know, dear," she said kindly, "sometimes it only takes one brave soul to remind the rest of us we're not powerless." He smiled. "I wasn't alone," I said, glancing down at Shadow, who was lying at my feet. "He's the brave one." She chuckled. "Then, I suppose you're a team." A few months passed. The seasons shifted. The grass grew a little wilder, the air a little freer. One afternoon, I sat on my porch with Shadow, the sun dipping behind the trees. A couple of neighborhood kids ran up to pet him, something Karen would have fined their parents for once. He wagged his tail, gentle as ever. "Your dog's famous," one of the kids said. "My dad called him the hero of Pinewood." I laughed. He just did what good dogs do, kept watch. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Shadow didn't just guard my home that night. He'd reminded me what strength looked like: silent, steady, unwavering. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Karen. She'd pled guilty to trespassing and misuse of HOA authority, but from the county sheriff's office. It was an official commendation for Shadow, recognizing his exceptional service and protection of civilian property. I framed it, hung it by the front door. Every time I walked past it, I remembered that night not with anger, but with gratitude. Because sometimes the people who try to tear you down end up showing you how strong you really are. That night, I sat in the quiet again, listening to the soft hum of crickets outside. Shadow rested beside me, his head on my lap, eyes half closed. "You know, buddy," I murmured, stroking his fur, "maybe this place is finally starting to feel like home." He gave a small sigh, content and peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt that same peace settle in me too. And as the moonlight spilled across the porch, I thought about everything. We'd been through war, loss, fear, and finally, freedom. The world wasn't perfect, and people like Karen would always exist somewhere. But so would courage. So would loyalty. So would the quiet strength of those who protect what truly matters. Final message: sometimes the fight isn't about winning, it's about standing up when you're tired of being pushed down. It's about protecting your peace, your home, and the ones you love. And sometimes, your greatest hero doesn't wear a badge or a cape. Sometimes, he's just waiting by the door, tail wagging, ready to remind you you're not alone. End of story.